No one is perfect, not even our superheroes. From mistakes made due to faulty decisions, acting clumsy, and some embarrassingly weird situations. While they may win the day in the end, they've all made failures along the way, and so we take a look at some of the times when things did not go as planned. Stay tuned. The Flash goes back in time. In The Flash, Barry Allen is often known for his great sense of judgment, often laced with empathy and wisdom. Unfortunately, Barry did little proper thinking this time, instead allowing his emotions to cloud his judgment by going back in time to prevent his mother's murder. By stopping the murder of his mother, Barry put his heroic origins in jeopardy. All the lives he has saved were put right back into danger as a result, not to mention the irreparable damage that any historical change can cause. After trying to fix his mistake, Barry returned to the present where Cisco's brother was dead, Caitlin was transforming into Killer Frost, and Savitar and Alchemy were wreaking havoc. All of that could have been avoided if Barry had kept his cool at the end of Season 2 and opted not to travel back in time for purely selfish reasons. Coming next, as a superhero, it is certainly a part of the job to be as discreet as possible and limit carelessness. That wasn't the case, as Spider-Man Peter clumsily did otherwise. For a superhero who wants to keep his identity secret, Peter is pretty careless about who might discover the truth. After sneaking back into his room after a day of crime fighting, Peter fails to see Ned standing right there to see it all. Later, he is wearing his fancy new suit while standing in his bedroom with the door open for Aunt May to just walk by and see him as Spider-Man. He really shouldn't have been too surprised when his identity was finally revealed to the whole world. Now, mistakes are human. However, this was a grave mistake by Peter when he handed Edith to Mysterio. After losing Tony Stark, Peter is gifted with one last piece of tech from his mentor. Stark leaves him in control of an AI system called Edith, which has some pretty alarming capabilities. Upon meeting Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, Peter thinks he has found a new mentor and hands the tech over to Beck. Of course, Beck turned out to be evil and was playing Peter the whole time. Even if Beck turned out to be good, Peter entrusted some very dangerous tech to someone he had just met. That's not a smart move. Up next, Tony Stark gets wasted. Fans of the comics know all about Tony Stark's alcohol abuse. It was one of the wrinkles in his character that made him unique and stand out among the rest. Fans of the MCU haven't seen this concept explored thoroughly, except in this case. While at a party, Tony gets wasted and puts on an Iron Man suit. He starts blasting things willy-nilly and acts like an absolute ass. While this is not only irresponsible and dangerous, it has to be illegal. There are strict laws against firing firearms. You have to imagine those laws probably apply to Stark's Iron Man suit. He's lucky no one at the party got hurt. Otherwise, he may have ended up in jail, which may have done him some good anyway. Captain Entertainer? With great power comes great responsibility. That quote might have been said to Peter Parker, but it could apply to every superhero. Unfortunately, when Steve Rogers becomes a super soldier, he forgets that important life lesson. Despite his claims that he wanted to fight in the war and help others above all, Steve allows himself to become a performer in a USO show rather than use his abilities to fight in the war. It was a lesson he learned when confronted with the men who were sacrificing everything. What happens when you miss? This would turn out to be an epic fail. Find out more. Regardless of all the good Thor has done in the MCU, few will ever forget the time he failed to go for the head. The line has become synonymous with Thor and Thanos' relationship, reverberating into the opening act of Avengers Endgame when Thor finally does go for the head, but to no avail, as Thanos' damage has already been done. While Thor's Infinity War side quest to forge a new weapon to defeat Thanos already left his teammates reeling, it could have been excused if he had shown up in the nick of time and ended the entire Thanos threat right there and then. But Thor squanders his opportunity, allowing Thanos to tear the universe apart. If he had aimed a foot higher, Endgame wouldn't have had to happen at all, and Thanos could have been a big purple trophy stuffed and mounted over an Asgardian fireplace. Be prepared next time. Superheroes often struggle to get the hang of adapting to their powers or their newfound responsibility. While that is usually a struggle, it's not an excuse to act recklessly without a plan. The event of Kick-Ass quickly turned into an epic failure. The nerdy teenager puts on a wetsuit and tries to thwart a crime like his heroes from the pages of comic books, and he gets promptly stabbed in the abdomen and rushed to the hospital where his bloodied wetsuit is thrown in the trash. Well, that's not how to stop a fight. Coming next is the Flash's being clumsy in his judgment yet again. It's got to be one of the worst errors of judgment from Barry and Team Flash. After successfully getting their hands on the powerful artifact known as the Philosopher's Stone, Barry and Jay teamed up to lob it into the Speed Force. The idea was to keep it away from Savitar. There's just one flaw in the plan, really. Savitar already told them that he spent an eternity in the Speed Force. By chucking the stone in there, the Flash only made the stone more accessible to Savitar. Also, when Wally West threw the last remaining shard of the stone into the Speed Force, A few episodes later, he freed Savitar from confinement and set in motion countless horrific events. Instead of throwing the stone into a place that Savitar can easily access, they might have considered taking it to another Earth, or perhaps placing it in one of those speedster-proof Argus vaults. Or why not in a speedster-proof Argus vault on another Earth? Heck, a hole in the ground would have been better than the Speed Force. Next, Deadpool gets baby legs. In Deadpool 2's end of the second act set piece, the Merc with a mouth gets to meet one of his all-time favorite X-Men, the Juggernaut. However, the meeting doesn't last very long, as the Juggernaut picks up Deadpool and rips him in half, right down the middle. When Cable goes to visit Pool at Blind Owl's place to offer a truce, his legs have only grown back to the size of an infant, while his torso remains adult-sized. The pinnacle of this gag is the Basic Instinct crossing the legs spoof. Up next, still Deadpool. As he tries to assemble a superhero team, the result was just as bad as the idea. Deadpool tries to assemble a team of superhumans by conducting a completely wild audition. Deadpool would pass as the worst judge ever. Without obvious criteria, perhaps only with the picture of what superheroes should look like from comics, he creates a team. After assembling the X-Force, a superhero team comprised of relatively high-profile comic book properties, Deadpool even goes on to announce the launch of the new franchise. The team takes to the skies for an overly elaborate operation that kills them all in seconds. The only survivors are Deadpool himself and Domino. That was some failure. Wolverine is defeated by Princess Powerful with just a single punch, despite all the horrors he has faced in Marvel Comics. Now that's very awkward. Wolverine, the mutant, has stabbed, skewered, and mauled his way through thousands of foes for over 43 years. He's gone toe-to-toe with some of the Marvel Universe's most powerful villains and lived to tell the tale. What we mean is that Wolverine is no slacker when it comes to combat. All of Wolverine's previous experiences, however, were insufficient to prepare him for Princess Powerful. Molly Hayes, aka Princess Powerful, is the Runaways' youngest member, and she doesn't appear to be a force to be reckoned with. However, thanks to her superhuman strength, this mutant packs a powerful punch. So when Wolverine came looking for Molly in Runaways number 12, the diminutive Bruiser had none of it, sending Wolverine into a tailspin. What happens next when a superhero decides to set aside everything in pursuit of vengeance? Find out. Drax had made it his life's mission to kill Ronan the Accuser and avenge his wife and daughter's deaths. Unfortunately, his desire for vengeance led to disaster when he summoned the Kree war criminal to nowhere too quickly. Ronan arrived with a massive army, easily defeating Drax and capturing the Power Stone. Instead of annihilating Ronan, Drax empowered him to commit genocide on a global scale. While Drax admitted his error and prevented Ronan from destroying Xandar, the consequences of his error were disastrous. During the Battle of Xandar, Ronan used the stone to slaughter a large number of Nova pilots. This not only represented a significant loss of life, but it also severely weakened the Nova core and made Xandar far more vulnerable. And that'll be all for today. Let us know of other epic mistakes made by superheroes in the comments section, and thanks for watching.